Hey everybody, how we doing? Can everybody hear me? That's the first question. We don't want to have 15 people saying no. Audio check. 1, 2. Am I too loud? Is this too annoying? Should I do something else? All right. So, hey, welcome everybody. Welcome once again to the TIP because the SIP. We found TP, but now we're running out of meaty, so let's do a CIP. It's time for Cabernet Brutico. Haas Milone here again, along with David Brutico. Say hi, David.
Hello.
And of course, our genius technician that makes all this happen, the man of the hour every day at Brutico, Kevin Brutico. Say hi, Kevin.
Hey, everyone.
All right. So cool. So, hey, it's been another wonderful week here at Brutico. And beautiful weather, 90 plus degrees. But hey, we have a special guest today for you. So right now, we'd like to introduce you to Steve Brutico. We'd like to say hi to everybody real quick. So give us a second. We're making this work. You up there, Steve?
Hey, here we are.
There he is.
Cheers, everybody. Hey, thank you all for being here. This has been so much fun in the midst of all this crisis, and this is a really fun thing for all of us and our family to do. We have a lot of family members watching, and we just, you're all family members to us now. This has been just great. We really appreciate your support. Let's enjoy some great wines. We're experimenting with a few things tonight. We might change the format up a little bit in the next few weeks. We're going to keep doing this by popular demand. What would you do without your fix of Haas on a Thursday night, right? So thank you all. Cheers. Let's have a good time.
All right. Cheers.
I'll drink.
You do that well. All right. So what's up next? I guess let's talk about some wine, huh? So yes, of course, in case you haven't noticed, this is the shirt that you see in every picture of me and all of our media. I had to finally wear it tonight just to make sure everybody knew it wasn't a figment of their imagination or a colorblind spot on a camera. So here we go tonight. We're going to talk about a couple different things. Number one is about doing Cabernet on a day that's 90 plus degrees. You know, a lot of people want to shy away from reds during the summertime and when it gets a little bit warmer. But hey, I say drink reds year round. And the reason why is that you still eat meat, you still love beef, and you know Cab. Cab loves beef. It loves barbecued, it loves grilled, roasted, slow cooked, smoked, whatever. If it's beef, it's Cab. And the thing about it is that if it's a little warm outside and the temperature's going up, throw it in the fridge. Chill it down. Seriously, chill down your reds. Get them down to about 65 degrees, and then bring them out so they're more enjoyable. They'll warm up a little bit in your hand, and you'll see them develop a little bit more, but they become more enjoyable during the summer months, and gives that better. It's a little more refreshing, I guess you should say. The other thing about pairing wines with food, and we've talked about this quite a bit, trying to pair wines and do this. Drink what you like. I'll be honest with you, I may have a piece of fish on a plate, but I might be drinking Zin. It doesn't mean the Zin goes with the fish makes the Zin taste any better. I just enjoy drinking that Zinfandel, and it makes my meal more pleasurable because it's what I like to drink. So you got to look at it that way. Sometimes you just drink what you like and you don't worry about it and you just move on. We don't have to make it so it enhances the flavor of the wine and brings out these nuances. I try to give you guys little hints and guide you in areas to where you might find that, but in the end, you drink what you like, and that's all that matters. Another thing to let you guys know, we're going to keep this thing going. We're actually developing another 6-pack, so we're going to keep this going for at least another 4 weeks to 3 to 4 weeks, if not longer. So we'll put that information out to you by next week. You'll have that to see with the next series of wines is going to be. We're kind of developing now. The other thing we're also doing is we're playing around with probably here in the next couple of weeks. What are you drinking? What do you like to drink? What wines are you drinking? So we might be doing a week that what we do is to ask you to have your favorite Bliss or Brutico wine. I'll have them all here, and then you shoot us, tell us what you're drinking, why you like it, and we can just talk about that one individual wine really quick. So it might be a really fun answer and question period. So we're looking at doing a couple of different things, having some more fun with this, and and moving around. One of the other things that we're kind of talking about too is we have some really great wine club members, people like yourselves who are out there, and you all have some awesome products and awesome businesses. Let us know. We'd love to share that information with other wine club members. Tonight, what we'd like to do is really spotlight Shepherd's Manor. Coley and Michael Heston is actually, they're on right now watching us. They're in Maryland. And right now, I'd just like to show you, this is kind of, I don't know if you guys can see how well this is, but this is their little brochure. They're a sheep dairy, and they make their own sheep cheeses, and they sent some out to us, and we paired them with a bunch of wines. They do ship all over the country. They're in New Windsor, Maryland. We'll put some information out for you guys to find them, but the cheeses that they have are awesome. And for all of you who are on the East Coast, I highly recommend these sheep cheeses. They're some of the best sheep cheese I've ever had, and I love sheep cheese. Sheep milk cheese, I think, is probably one of the best wine pairing cheeses in the world because it's a little bit richer, and I think it has a better flavor profile that's not overpowering. It actually enhances. And one of the things that we did, and just looking at my notes here, they have a bunch of Colberts that they make, and those really went well with all the white wines, but they had one especially that I really loved, and that was their herb Colbert, which had, I can't remember all the different herbs. There was like some marjoram, some basil, and some thyme, and a bunch of different stuff in it. It was the rosé, the 19 rosé in that wine was just excellent. They were so good. And then the other wine that I had with it, which was really good with the herb Tomé that they make. They make a Tomé, which is more of an Italian style rind aged cheese, and it was basil and lemon rind. And oh my God, that was the Sauvignon Blanc and that cheese was like out of the world. It was so good. And then all the Tomés that they make are a little bit bigger, richer style cheeses. Some are more crumbly, some are more sliceable, but with any of the red wines, they're excellent. So I really have to tell you, find those cheeses any way you can. And like I said, they own all their own sheep. It's a small little farm. It's a husband and wife operation, and they make all their own cheese. Search them out. So it is Shepherd's Manor Creamery in New Windsor, Maryland. Find those cheeses. Tomorrow night, we're going to actually showcase them again. We're doing a Maryland special with our Lanterna, who's our distributor out there. And kind of we'll talk about those again out there and having a really good time. So again, Colleen and Michael, thank you so much for being a wine club member first and foremost, and excellent job on your dairy and the cheeses that you produce. Highly recommend those. All right, so let's move on to Cabernet. So Cab is a big part of our portfolio. It is one of our top selling wines. It is, the king of reds, as people like to call it. It is it's a fun wine to make. It's a wine that can be made in so many different ways, and really shows area, probably terroir, more than any other red varietal, I think. And that can be shown by how you always know a Napa Cab from an Alexander Valley Cabernet to a Mendocino Cabernet, and depending on where Mendocino it's grown. So it really shows you the weather patterns and the terroir so much more, I think, than a lot of other varietals kind of do. Because it's in a bigger way. It's not as mild. It's big shifts, I think, for Cab. So I like Cab, and and I kind of put it in. We put it out in the email. One of my favorite things is taking figs, stuffing them with a little blue cheese, wrapping it in bacon, throw it on a barbecue. And you take that, and you got the best of all worlds, I think. And then a wedge salad with blue cheese and nice toasted, either pecans or walnuts, and all that, and just a nice, beautiful bone-in ribeye steak coming off the grill. It's Cabernet all the way through. It just screams for it. So it's so good, and just simple seasoning, just salt and pepper. Maybe take a garlic clove and rub that meat down a little bit, but that's something that I love with Cab. And I think figs really work well with Cab because that dark fig flavor you can find sometimes, like in these Cabs, you'll hear me talking about dark, more plum, because I think it's more plummy than fig in this vintage, these two vintages, but you'll always kind of get that figgy, that fig kind of aroma and flavor. You'll find it in bigger reds, I believe. All right. So let's get moving then. Let's talk about, believe it or not, we're going to go to the Reserve first. We're going to start with the 2014 Reserve. 2014 Reserve Cabernet is 100% Cabernet off our Contento Ranch. It is off our Block 6 North and Block 6 South. So both these cabs, Brutico cabs, comes from those two blocks, 100% of it. So whatever Cabernet, even if we do add a little more low or Syrah to it, all the cab always comes from those two sections. The reason why is you saw, I'm a farmer at heart. That's why I always talk about the soils, and I look at the ground and the dirt first, and you look at the vines, and that clone on each end, it's actually the same clone. The section in the middle is different. But the clones on the ends are a different clone that really loves that soil and that spot, so it works really well. So with the Reserve, you'll see a lot of similarities, I think, when you come to the Brutico, but I like in the Reserve is that it's kind of cloves in that cedar chest is what it reminds me of. It reminds me of going up to my mom's and open up like a cedar hope chest and kind of get that little woof of that cedar. And that's what it reminds me of, that planky cedar. And you get that nice clove, and you get that real dark plum richness of a fruit coming through, and just a hint of tobacco in the back end of the nose. So that's kind of where I'm at with this wine. And I love all that. It just, you know, it's inviting. And it holds, for me, those aromas hold a lot of memories, you know, being younger, my grandmother's house and so forth. So that's the other thing that's kind of fun about that. Now, when I get this in, I get that quick hit of espresso bean, some tannin, the structure, and then I get this really dark chocolate, not bitter, but that heavy 90+% cocoa dark chocolate. You know, it's that really big cocoa. And I like saying 90+ a lot when we talk about cabs, and I'll tell you why in a minute. You get that, and then you get that, then the fruit comes through in the middle, and you get that nice compote fruit, that really kind of, it's not cooked fruit, and it's not pruniness, but it's that deeper, richer fruit that's been, you know, that's been kind of toasted a little bit more. And you get that dark fruit coming through. And then I'm getting that nice, see, and then that fruit rolls over and you get that little bit of tobacco again in the back end. And that's the barrels coming through and showing that. It's got a richness to it. And it's got where the fruit profile really starts exploding more and more in the finish than in the beginning, which for Cabernet is what I kind of really like. I like how because that beginning of that cab takes on all that fat in the meat or the spiciness or the peppercorns or that, it really attacks that. And then you start to get the sweetness of, when you're biting into that ribeye, the sweetness of the fat, the marbling of the meat itself, and then that's being pushed and accentuated with the fruitiness in the back end of the wine. So it kind of, that's where that sweetness kind of rolls through and it accentuates it. So I really enjoy that. I really like that. Our Cabernet Reserve program, our whole Reserve program, not only just Cabernet, is a barrel selection. So actually go through, select individual barrels and put that into the Cabernet program when we taste. So we'll taste, this year, I believe we tasted 64 Cabernets, 64 different samples of Cabernet out of about 10 lots, but we tasted all the new barrels within those lots to pick the new barrels. And then we kind of readdress those, right? Like right now, we're actually blending, we actually are blending the cab Monday, the Brutocao Cabernet and putting the Reserve Cab together. So that's this time of year, that's what we're doing. We're finalizing all those blends, getting ready to bottle them. So 2 years in the barrel instead of 18 months. We put it back in the barrel. We'll bottle this probably sometime next February for the Reserve, for the 2018 Reserve. Or actually, I'm sorry, 2017 Reserve will be bottled next year. 2018 Reserve will be bottled for a whole other year, pretty close to it, because sometimes it just rolls out a little bit farther. But we'll, 2018, somewhere around February, we might get, doing that. Actually, I misspoke, because we don't have a 2017 Reserve, because we didn't think that we had the wine quality that we wanted to make a Reserve. And that's the great thing about making a reserve wine. You know, if you don't think it's there, you don't make it. So we did hold back on that. So we did make an 18. We are making an 18. The quality is there, so we'll be doing that. Rolling through. All right. The other thing, reserve bottle is usually a little bit taller, and we use a taller, longer cork in it too, so it can lay down a little bit longer. The reason why I'm tasting this one first is because it's a little bit more mellowed in the mouth. It doesn't have, the tannin is not as strong as in the Brutico. The Brutico is a little bit bigger right now with the tannins, and I didn't want that to overtake from the beauty of this wine where it's at right now. This wine's still gonna lay down for quite a while. It's still gonna taste excellent. I think probably 20 years, this wine will lay down very easily. 2014 was our first, was the year that we got over 90, we got 92 points on the Brutocao Cabernet, this same vintage. So, but we've never sent this one out to score. In fact, I was thinking about it today. I said, we probably should send this wine out and see what the experts tell us it is. All right, so that's our Reserva. That's the Reserve Cabernet from 2014. That is the current release of the Reserve Cabernet. All right, next. So before I get into Brutocao Cab, the other thing I want to talk about when it comes to meat, especially beef, is you got to remember, and Kevin found a couple of great videos. Those guys are awesome to watch about, you know, the different meats and the cooking and the flavor profiles. But even different cuts of meat has a different flavor profile. So you'll get some more mineralities and some, you know, get more fat content, sweeter when you go to the ribeyes. And so just remember that sometimes, just because it's not only the cooking method of how you cook that meat, but the actual cut itself is going to give you a different flavor or have more flavor. Iron, you know, skirt steak has got tons of flavoring, which is awesome. That's why it used to be cheap. Now it's so expensive because everybody's found out about, you know, iron steak, you know. So good old skirt steak. All right, let's get some Brutocao Cab going here. So we are 4 years running right now with the 2016 vintage of 90 plus points in the Wine Enthusiast. We're very proud of that. Salute. Good job to everybody at Brutico and Bliss Vineyards and Winery. You know, and so we're very proud of that beautiful vineyard that gives us that. So taking this cab, so this again is 100% Cabernet from the Contento Ranch. So that's why it does say Contento Vineyards on it. If you see it when our Cabernet says Hopland Ranches, that means usually it's been blended. And we tell people it's blended, it has a little bit of Merlot in it or a little Syrah. And since that's not on the Contento Ranch, we call it Hopland Ranches. Again, it's always making the best wine, the best value for you that you like is more important than making sure it's 100% Cabernet. It needs to be the best wine it can be. So again, when you get this in, you get some nice jamming. It's like blackberry jam, and it's, you know, and it reminds me of August. At my mom's house, we'd be picking pears all day long, and then at night after dinner, you got a coffee can, and we went down to the blackberry patches and we picked blackberries. If you didn't fill up your coffee can, you didn't get pie the next night. So I remember sitting there with my mom making blackberry jam. You know, I was the youngest of the crew, and all my cousins used to come live with us during the summer to come work on the ranch. So I'd be in the morning with mom helping her make jam and stuff while the rest of them were all picking pears. And thank God for that. It helped me become a lot better cook. So, but that's kind of a memory. And that's the one thing about wine. It's always great. Those aromas are always going to give you a memory. And that's where you base your aromas is pretty much first impressions and memories. So you get that beautiful little bit of cedar again. So that's some of those French oak barrels we use. Talk about barrel selection after we get through this nice kind of, and it's the concentrated fruit, and both wines have that. And I really like that a lot. And I like the layering of the fruit and the cedar, and that kind of toasted vanilla in the back end. Again, that's the barrel kind of showing through. But very rich, a lot of fruit. this wine, it just enters and it just takes over. And that fruit that's in the nose, you're tasting it. And you get that rich kind of a, for lack of a better word, jammy fruit that gives it a richness, but the tannins are there and the structure is there. Remember we talked about tannins before. You can feel the tannins roll around your mouth, so they come over both sides. They're not overpowering. They're not drying you out. And you feel the fruit get stronger and lift up more as those tannins get stronger in your mouth, and that's what they're supposed to do. There's some oak tannins in there. It's mainly the skin tannins. Again, it's us pumping those wines over early without any alcohol. So we're extracting those water-soluble tannins out of the skins, which are more supple, but still do the same job, and that preserves that fruit. It's the oak that we use also at the same time. So all the French oak we use is only toasted on the barrel itself, not the heads, because that leaves raw oak exposed, which helps set color and add a tannin structure that helps preserve the fruit at the same time. American oak, we toast 100% inside the heads and the barrel itself. The reason why is because it can give you a dill character or sometimes a little bit of a green character. So our American oak barrels are aged for 3 years, as we talked about before, and then 100% toasted, including the heads. So what we do is we're getting all those great spices from that American oak. So Cabernet is roughly about 50-50 American oak and French oak. You know, if you think about silver oak cab was 100% American oak. They really kind of put American oak on the map for Cabernet and red wines. People started accepting it more. And of course, we started making barrels a lot better so that it actually helped the Cabernet instead of, you know, making it green. The other thing too is that you get those great vanillins, that little vanillin treat that I'm talking about in the nose. That's from the French oak. It's giving us that. But all along, all those flavors, that cedar, that lovely kind of toasty, spiced, almost graham cracker kind of finish going on with some, like, you know, with like dates or figs in the back end. That's all the barrel. The barrel's there. That's that graham cracker. So what it's doing is that tannins from that barrel and the barrel itself, the oak is pushing up those fruit flavors so you can grab them again in the back end, even through all that tannin. You can see why I wanted to taste this one first, because if you taste this one first, as rich as it is all the fruit, it dulls this wine down, and it's not a dull wine. So go back to this wine now and try it. So take a little bit of Cab from Brutico first, and just take a sip. So you see how big and rich and kind of sweet fruit it is. But now if you go to the Reserve, you can see it kind of flattens it out. It's not showing any fruit. You get a little bit of that barrel and that mocha, but it lost a lot of its intensity that was there prior to it, because this wine overpowers it so much at this point in time in its life, and that's because that fruit is really overpowering with that little bit of oak in it and the tannin structure. This is by no means is this Reserve a small wine, but that's where sometimes you have to be careful how you select the wine you serve after each, you know, during a course or behind each other. You can see how they wash them out. That's why even in the tasting room, how we pick how we serve our wines is based on how it actually makes the next wine taste, not only what the order is, you know, what people presume an order is. That's why a suggested tasting order in a tasting room is usually a good thing to follow, because there actually has been some forethought into that. So there's your winemaking lesson for today. All right. Let's see what else we got to say.
We got a few questions coming.
Oh, we got questions. We got questions.
How long do you leave the cab on the skins for?
As long as I can. And that's the true answer. So if I have, and usually the Cabernet I can leave on a little bit longer. I'll take some lots as I taste them, and I taste them during fermentation. And when I feel that they're where I want them, the tannin structure and everything, that's when I press them off. Usually we save probably 14 to 24 days, roughly, is when they're on the skins. It just depends on the lot and where they come from. 14 days is very quick. That's usually something that's a smaller lot, that's a little bit different, and we want that for more fruit content maybe. But most of the time, I'd say about 3 weeks, 3 to 4 weeks And then some lots, it takes longer, and we might pump them over a little bit more, just waiting for the flavor profile I want and the tannin structure to be there where we want. So, and usually by that time when the cab comes in, I have the luxury of doing that, which I don't have sometimes with Merlot, because it comes in a lot earlier with some of the whites. It comes in right behind the whites. So a lot of times it's space too.
How many times do you use a barrel, and what do you do with them when we are done?
So we use a barrel probably up to, let's see, what are we doing right now? About anywhere from 8 to 10 years, we'll keep a barrel around, as long as it's, not detrimental to the wine. And by what happens is that even though a barrel is not brand new, it still has use. Pretty much you've used about 90% of the oak in the barrel its first 6 months you put wine in. It's done. It's just like a used car when you drive it off the lot. Then the second use on that barrel, after they've been a year old, you get a little bit of oak influence, but not a lot. The biggest thing is that the pores close up and get clogged, so you're not getting micro-oxygenation. So basically the barrel's not breathing anymore. So what happens is it's just getting clogged and clogged and clogged. And when it doesn't breathe anymore, it really doesn't do you any good. It actually is detrimental to the wine. Any barrels that we have that are usually, when we sell them, most of the time, by the time we're done with them, they go to the hardware store for planters.
Do you do malolactic fermentation on any of your red wines? And maybe explain malolactic fermentation.
So the answer is yes. Malolactic fermentation is a bacterium. It's another yeast. So yeast is a bacteria. So we use one yeast to do the primary fermentation. And then we use this other bacterium yeast, which is malolactic fermentation. So what we have is lactic acid, which is inside the wine. And what we do is we go after that, and we have this bacteria eats that instead of sugar. All Brutico Bliss wines, except for Sauvignon Blanc, go through malolactic fermentation. Even the Chardonnays, people don't believe that they go through. The Chardonnay malo that we use is a citrus producer. So different malolactics can give you different flavors like other yeasts do also. So it produces citrus. We do have specific strains we like to use for Brutico and not for Bliss, and for different varietals. So we have about, I think I have three different malobacterias that we use, depending upon the wine that I'm trying to make, because it does affect the flavor profile of the wine. And because I want to show you fruit, I make sure the malobacteria I use is always a fruit-forward malolactic bacteria.
So with Cab Sauv being one of the main Bordeaux varietals, can you talk about Bordeaux wines and the blends and right bank versus left bank, all that kind of stuff?
Well, it's actually, I'm not sure anymore if it's still, it was never actually number one. Merlot actually was number one. The Cab was number two for a long time. And the right bank of the river was Merlot based, and the left bank was Cab based, if I remember correctly, in Bordeaux. I'm not a big Bordeaux expert. Those are just two of the main blenders that they use. Plus they have, when you hear of a Meritage wine, those are a wine that's made with all the blenders. Petit Verdot is one. There's so many different ones like that do that, that they go into these blenders, and Malbec and different things like that. So, but again, it depends on which house. And in France, it's very different. It depends on the house and where the vineyards are on what the blend usually will be. So some houses are Merlot strong, some houses are Cabernet strong. So Rothschild is a very Cabernet strong house. Or Lichbage, right? Lichbage, don't ask me to pronounce. I believe is Merlot, more Merlot based, if I remember correctly. I can't quote me on any of that. But again, it's the art of blending. It's taking what the weather, what the ground, and what Mother Nature gives you, and accentuating it out in a wine.
Here's a trivia question. Where did Cabernet Sauvignon grape come from? Who are its parents?
Who are its parents? No clue.
So I believe the answer is Cabernet Franc and Sauvignon Blanc.
It sounds good. I'll give you points for that one.
Okay, so question about corks. Last week we saw a real cork and a synthetic cork.
No, a
I'm not sure
conglomerate
about
cork.
that.
Conglomerate, yeah.
Do you want to talk a little about?
So this week, both wines are conglomerates. So this is actually a conglomerate cork. I don't know if you can actually see this or not. Here, Kevin. Vanna will show you the cork. Hopefully it'll focus. I don't think so. Look at that. The magic of television.
Oh.
So you can see what they do is they actually chop the corks up. They wash them and they clean them and then they put it back together. And then what they do is they put these little, they call it biosphere? No, what's that called, David? It's a,
Microsphere.
microsphere. Thank you. Yeah, it's not polyshore. Anyway, so a microsphere. And the microspheres that they put in here are to help add a porousness to it so it breathes and holds so much oxygen. Corks actually inject oxygen in the wine when you first put them in. And so they do the same with these. And so what happens is it's a cleaner cork product that we don't have to worry about TCA or taint in the bottle, cork taint. We switched to these, actually this is the 2014, I believe it's the first vintage. 2013 that you saw us with the Merlot the other day had, last week, had a regular cork in it. The reason why is we were tasting in this room a Reserve Pinot, and I believe it was a 2012, and we had 6 bottles of Pinot that we were tasting. And we started with 2, and they were both corked. Out of the 6 bottles, we found 3 corked bottles, and we said, we can't do this anymore. Cork has gotten a lot better. The manufacturers since then have cleaned it up so well. It's a lot better process. But for us, we don't have to worry about it at all. It's a great product. It works well. And I'm actually very happy with it. I'm testing a couple, we test a couple of different brands to see which one works best. But you can actually make these tighter than a regular cork to where the wine even lasts longer if you want it to. So, but
you said one was longer than the other. And what's
this
the
one
reason?
is yeah. So this is the Dion. So this is I don't know, you can't see it. This one is just about 10 millimeters longer, and it's a reserve cork because of that. So it lets a lot less air in than a regular standard size cork. So I believe this is a 50 millimeter, and this is a 45 is what this one. This one's 5 millimeters, and that little bit of difference makes a big difference on how much air interaction there is in the two. So yeah, so usually like port corks and reserve corks are always longer because the wines are made to lay down a longer period of time.
And those aren't made out of used corks. They're made out of the.
No, it's made out of actual, just the cork. Just so instead of stamping, what they do is they have a big cutter. They have these big sheets of cork, and they have a big cutter that comes down and pulls a round peg out of cork. Well, instead, what they do for these corks is they grind all that cork up and then put it back together with the microspheres inside of it. So it is not used cork. It is fresh cork. But because they do it this way, they can utilize about, I think it's 50 to 60% more of the cork than they normally would do to make a more premium cork. So what happens with corks is that you get grades, right? So there's extra first up to premium. And so what they do is when they stamp these out, it's just like cutting biscuits on your table, right? So you're taking all these holes out, you got some left over. Well, you can't re-roll the cork and recut more biscuits out. All the rest of that is waste. So that gets ground up and that goes to a cheaper cork. Well, the way to do it now is they can grind the whole thing up and make a more premium cork out of the whole sheet, so there's less waste and it's a better cork product all the way around.
We had a fun question going on earlier, and some people were taking some bets. At what age did Haas start drinking?
Yeah. It wasn't in vitro. I can tell you that much. So.
That was a guess.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it was not. Actually, my mom didn't start drinking until after I was born. Go figure. I had my first sip of wine probably, I don't know, 3, 4.
Okay.
My first sip. So, it's an Italian table. It's like, hey, here, have a little.
Well, we got to give a shout out to Troy for the best answer. He said he asked for a thin plastic cup so his tiny little hands could help bring it up to temperature.
There you go.
All right.
Actually, it's probably brandy. Anyway.
Back to the corks real quick. Can you recycle used cork, or is there anything you can do with them?
Yeah, you can make great art. And yeah, actually there are, they take these, they'll regrind them and they'll use them for other cheaper products. These, a lot of times they don't use them for, they won't reuse them for wine. But I know that cork is going back into flooring. The cork flooring you get sometimes, that's what it comes from. It's the leftovers, they regrind this and put it back in. So anytime you see a cork product, other than for like a wine or a closure is what we call it, it's usually, some recycled product in there.
What is the oldest vintage of wine that you've tasted?
1924, Chateau de Chem, Sauternes. That I remember.
But was it good?
Oh yeah. I was lucky because when I grew, you know, I tasted that, I think I was 15 years old. When Minnesota County back in 1977 is when my family got into the winery business again. That was my brother, Jim, and Greg Graziano. So Jim Malone and Greg Graziano started Milone Winery here in Auckland. Back in that time, we were the 9th winery in the county at that point in time. So it was a very small, eclectic group that used to get together and taste and do all kinds of stuff. And so they kind of put together different tastings. So I was lucky enough to taste some like great wines, world-renowned wines that nobody knew what they were, really kind of with these group of winemakers and a bunch of people that were basically trying to self-teaching each other more about world wines and doing different things. So so that's kind of a lot of my wine experience was doing that. So it made it, I was very lucky. My liver didn't like it, but I was very lucky.
Haas, you grew up here in Hopland, like you were just saying, and you actually have a lot of history on the Contento vineyard, where these cabs are coming from. Do you have any good stories from those?
Yes, probably do. And I probably have some that are legal that I could tell. So I'll just tell you the story that I always tell everybody else. My best friend, Monty, lives actually right across, still in his mom and dad's house. They're not there anymore, though. Right across the road from the winery here. And the Contento Ranch was the Atico Pride Ranch. Atico is an American tractor company. This is the Woolridges bought this property, the owners of the company, to test out their new equipment for construction. So they bring up new rollers, tractors, different types of scrapers. And meanwhile, they had a cattle ranch. So actually where our wedding site is, was the barn for Atico Pride. So they had show cattle, Brangus show cattle. So we used to come out here, me and Monty, and ride our bikes out here, and in the old Riley Haskell, who was the ranch manager, used to chase us off, you know, because we'd be bothering the cow. And Atico Pride, who was the prize bull, he was the national grand champion bull of all bulls. He was actually the Brangus grand champion, but also the grand champion of all bulls at the Cow Palace. And he used to have the big cattle shows down there. So he had his own pasture. They brought the cows to him. So me and Monty used to go and play King of the Mountain on him all the time and had a lot of fun with that. Well, Riley's an old cowboy. Riley used to actually work for John Wayne on John Wayne's ranch down in New Mexico and Arizona, and used to run around with them in between movies and stuff. So he was a little rugged cowboy. And he'd come tell us to get the hell out of there and yell at us. We'd ride our bicycles out and then ride our bicycles back. One day during one of the Legion Hall dances here in town, so we're talking, you know, yeah, I am a redneck hick country boy from Podunk. So at the Legion Hall dance, and me and Monty are sitting there and we're having a beer, and Riley comes up and goes, I got to tell you two young people something. And I'm like, oh God, here we go. Here's another Brandon from Riley about what we did wrong. He goes, you know, all those years I chased you off in that bull pasture, I'd be sitting there and I could see you guys riding your bikes up, and that bull would see you riding your bikes up. And that bull, as soon as he saw you, would lay down because he knew you were going to get the best back rub of his life from you two wrestling on top of him, playing King of the Mountain. And then as soon as I saw that bull was getting too restless, I'd come out and yell at you guys to get the hell out of there because I could tell he wanted to get up and you better get going. So that's my Riley Haskell, John Wayne, Brahma Bull kid story in Hopland for you. So there's a lot of beef history. I actually when I went to college, I studied beef management. It was nothing to do with viticulture or enology. So there's a lot of BS in my family.
So you had Kobe beef in Hopland before they were doing it.
Yeah, we were Kobe before Kobe was cool, baby. Oh yeah.
So we're having some people chat in about their oldest wines they've had, and there's some pretty neat ones. Someone has a bottle of 1906 vintage port that was acquired by trading a bottle of Pappy Van Winkle.
Oh, really?
Whiskey.
Cool. I would have kept the Pappies, but whatever.
Were you going to be a butcher?
Nope. It's going to be a cowboy. No, we had a 100-head cow-calf operation, me and my dad, on the ranch that butts right up to the Contento Ranch, the Hanson Ranch. So, no, we had cows, pears, prunes, grapes, and all the hay fields to go with it. So, oh, yeah. Every month was something new and fun. So, hey, the winery right now, just to let you guys go while we're searching for a couple more questions. So a lot of racking going on. We're actually racking all the 19 reds right now, kind of freshening them back up, tasting them, evaluating them, and then we're going to put them back to bed until probably August, where we'll try to come through. We'll sulfur and top them really quick before we get into harvest. And then we're putting all the 18 Brutico wines together, getting them ready for bottling. June's typically our Brutico month we bottle, so we'll be bottling the Brutico Chardonnay, Bliss Pinot, and then all the Brutico 18 reds will be coming out. And then in July, we'll start bottling up all the 2019 Bliss reds, plus the 2018 Blissful red, which will be coming out. We're actually going to taste the Blissful red here in one of these tastings, and we'll talk more about how that's made and where that comes from, how that's actually Brutico wine most times. So let's see what else we got going on here.
How many people does Brutico employ?
Not enough on some days too many. What do we got? Let's see, out in the vineyards, I think, Glenn, you got, what, 8 full-time employees, 10 full-time employees? And up here in the winery, in the cellar, we have 5 full-time cellar guys, 2 in the warehouse, plus myself and Lydia in the lab. And then in the tasting rooms, we got, of course, Chris, who is sitting here waiting for you to bug him about something. I know Chris wants a phone call or email from everybody all at once, first thing in the morning. And Kevin, and and then of course we have a couple of people up here doing administrative, and then we have David, Lenny, and Stephen up here around and making sure that we're not sleeping in our cars in the middle of the vineyard.
It's really not a huge operation, but
we are pretty efficient. We have to be, and we like during harvest we have in the cellar we bring on 2 or 3 more people. Right now I usually only run with about 4 guys in the cellar, but right now I have 1 extra guy pulled over because of bottling and so forth coming up, helping us get caught up in the cellar, because when we bottle, our cellar crew becomes part of our bottling crew, so we can't get a lot done. So.
By the way, Chris just shared your extension when he gave out his number.
You can do that all day long. That's great.
Call for
Unlike Chris, I will answer emails. No, it's all good. Hey, yeah, I don't care. Call me.
Do we have a lot of migrant laborers for pruning and picking?
We use contractors. So we use we use a subcontractor. We hire that person, and then they bring their crews in. So it's kind of more the norm now than it has been in the past. Because migrant workers, you're looking at housing and all this other stuff, where if we bring in what's called a contractor, you hire him, and then he takes care of hiring all the people that he brings, his crews. So he has set crews. So It works a lot better for us.
Are you hiring?
Sure.
How many more
I didn't
people?
say I was paying, but I'm hiring.
How many more people will you bring in for harvest?
Oh, at least at the winery, we'll bring in at least 2 people, minimum, probably 3. And there's always opportunities because we'll bring somebody in to help with the lab, go out and do vineyard sampling, help with lab work, and do some part-time cellar work. And then we actually need a couple extra people in the cellar.
Since you're talking about harvest, what does your day look like during harvest? What time do you start? What time do you end?
Let's see, harvest. I start around, I don't know, 3, 4 o'clock, September 5th or 6th, and I usually end about 8 o'clock at night, somewhere around November 1st. So usually what happens is I'll go out with when the machines are picking at night, I'll go check those out. Usually anywhere around 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning is when my day starts. Go out there, check out, see how the crew's doing, how Mr. Ken Richter is doing out there. Can never forget about Ken and Kathy Richter. Those two helped this operation so much. And Ken's the assistant vineyard manager. Kathy takes care of everything else, all the rentals that we do, and all the helps us with all the food preps and all the other things, and come put menus together and make sure that Ken and Lenny are on the straight and narrow, getting stuff done. So she has a very big job. Anyway, so yeah, usually I start about 3 to 4 o'clock in the morning, go out in the vineyards, get up to the winery, usually about 5 to 6 a.m. Usually we'll get up here. My crews usually start between 5 and 6, so I like to get here just before them at least. And then we'll start receiving grapes, usually about that time, about 6 o'clock, usually grapes start arriving. Go through, taste all the tanks, smell all the tanks, write up work orders, try to figure out what we got going on, try to figure out what we're picking the next day. That type of stuff, and I'll get out of here. I try to be out of here by about 5 o'clock if I can. Some days I can, some days I can't. But it's pretty much 12, 14 hours a day is the minimum.
What's the most tonnage you've brought in a day during harvest?
Where? Here?
Yeah, here.
What do we do here?
It's maybe about 95.
Almost 100 tons. We almost did
Yeah.
100 tons, yeah. We did 5 truckloads. That's a huge day here. That's huge. My old job, that was like 2 hours.
Yeah.
But here, that's a big day. But yeah, usually we only bring in about two truckloads a day, max, maybe 3. Usually we'll bring 2 truckloads of grapes in, and we'll bring in a bunch of hand-picked fruit in macro bins. But tonnage-wise, yeah, about 95, 100 tons.
On the contract workers, how many are on a crew, and how many crews do we?
It depends. It just depends on the year. Usually when you try to get a crew, you want at least 10 people on the crew. So, but we don't usually get more than 1 crew at a time in here picking, because everybody else is picking. So it's kind of hard. So we have our crew of people who are here year round that pick, and then we'll bring a contract crew to help supplement that. Because there is some big hand picking jobs that we have to do. And once, we'll try to bring those guys in.
And a couple weeks ago, we talked about how fast the crew is out there at pruning.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember what how much the top picker did last harvest? Maybe Len can.
That's a
chime
Len
in.
question right there.
It's impressive,
Yeah.
to say the least.
Those guys are picking close to 100, over 100 bins, 100 buckets a day. They flat move. They do a great job.
If we get that answer, we'll let you know. So back to the wine a little bit. So you were mentioning that that barrel sampling determines reserve versus non-reserve.
Mm-hmm.
What flavors or aromatics indicate which barrels go into either?
Whatever makes me happy. I'll be honest with you. There's nothing I'll put a barrel in reserve just because it's different, and it's different than all the other barrels. And there's like, it has a different flavor or aroma that I like, and I think it will make a great wine, but none of the rest of them have it. May not be the best, but I like that, and so I'll pull that in. you know, something that expression I heard last night, and I love it. You know, when you just taste it, you just donkey kick. It's just, yeah, I know, I really like that. And there's a lot of times we'll be tasting, and I'll taste the glass, and I'll look over at Lydia, and Lydia will look back at me, and we both kind of went, oh yeah. It's like, you know, you just know that's the one.
Can you repeat what you were saying in the beginning about the tastings moving forward? Like, we're going to do another 6-pack.
Yeah, so we're going to do another 6-pack. We're going to determine that. So we'll have that for you guys next week. What the wines and what the schedule is going to be. One of the other things we're talking about doing is we might just do a night where we just say, hey, you tell us you get a bottle of your favorite Brutico or Bliss wine, and kind of we'll just have a whole happy hour of questions and answers. I'll have all the wines here, and when you say what wine, I'll grab it and we'll talk about it. Even if it's a wine we've already done or whatever, just to have a fun, just something to do, something a little bit different. So yeah, so we're working on that. I mean, you got to think there's wines here that we don't usually see out in the marketplace, but as wine club members, you do see. One of the things is like our Sangiovese or Barbera, you don't see out there. Uber Tuscan, you don't see a lot out in the marketplace. So those are 3 wines that you'll see. Again, our Blissful Red, which we call Bled here at the winery, is a wine that's made a little bit differently than the rest of the Bliss wines. So, you know, we'll talk about that. We might get into some Bliss wines. When we do, we're going to talk about how they're different from Brutico, the different procedures and why we do that, those types of things. A little bit more winemaking probably. We're not sure if we're going to pare down to maybe 1 wine and instead of doing 2 wines, but we'll see. We're kind of playing with it. And you guys tell us, what do you want to see? What would you like to do? What things could we bring to you? You know, would be also awesome. We're going to keep shooting little pre-videos like we've been doing. You know, Lynn's going to keep showing you some growth and potential. I'll keep showing you dirt. You know, we'll have some fun. Probably get out to the winery this next week because the guys are doing a ton of barrel work. So we'll kind of start showing you some of that a little bit more so you can actually see the winery in action. We have some older videos. Kevin's got some great drone footage going over the top of some of these vineyards that we'll probably start showing you. You can see the topography a little bit more. So we have a lot of different content to bring to you guys and to show that. But we really want you to kind of help drive this machine a little bit too, and always looking for your input. So like again, I said, you know, call Chris, email Chris, you know, 24/7. He's ready. He's there for you anytime, you know. So let him know what you want. He's going to put my email address up here in a minute, I imagine, which is fine also. What's Chris's mobile number? Here, let me get that for you real quick. Anyway, but no, let us know, and we're more than happy to do that. You got to remember, we're just one big family here, you know, and hanging out, and this is fun, and I enjoy doing this, and you know, and even though it's kind of a little bit more of a one-way conversation, we're trying to find ways to open it up a little bit more. Also, so we'll see what we can do and have a little bit more fun.
So on the top picker for the season, last harvest was 35 tons. So one person picked 35 tons of grapes.
So we picked 1,400 tons last year, and he picked 35. That's pretty good.
We're getting a few questions about some previous Brutico employees, so Thomas Carter and some of the tasting room guys like Walt. You know, you see Thomas here and there once in a while.
Yeah, Thomas is actually working for another wine company. Thomas fell in love and moved on to Windsor, and now he lives down actually in Santa Rosa. So he's doing this great job where he works for a wine company who they find. In fact, he buys bulk wine from us. And what they do is they find people go to him saying, I have this label, I need some wine for this label. And then they put they put the wine together and bottle it for him. So that's what he's doing right now. He still comes up here. You know, he comes by the tasting room a couple times a month usually, but you know, we still see him. He's still Thomas. He's never going to change. But he's doing really good on that. Saw Walt I saw Walt about 4 weeks ago somewhere.
I saw him at Costco.
Yeah, exactly. That's where I saw.
He's walking around like
Yeah, he's just walking around. He's doing well, man. He's doing great. And, usually when we do a passport, he's always asking if he can come help and work and do whatever. So, but he was doing good last time I saw him.
How many steps a day on the vineyard? Do you know? Do you keep track?
How many steps a day on my Fitbit? Let's see. I on an average day, just normally around here, like, let's see, what's today? Today's like 11,000 steps for me today. So, but during harvest, 20, about on the average, because I'm out walking, running around, doing stuff. Yeah.
Does it help to have the same crews? I mean, we try to keep the same people because it's
our year-round vineyard crew is pretty much the same. You have 2 or 3 people here or there come back and forth. I've had the same. One of my cellar guys has been with me since I got here. I inherited him. That's Curb. And then the other guys I've had, Frankie and Ruben for probably 4 years.
Yeah, at least.
Ruben's been on and off, but Frankie,
yeah.
But yeah, it does, especially in the cellar for me, because they know how I want things done, and I don't have to retrain somebody. So I have people who have trained who know how to do it correctly, and then I kind of, then they can kind of show the newer guys. Actually, I have one of Robert Kirby who's been here with me forever, and then I have 2 sets of brothers. I have the Tuneros, and then I got Medina brothers. That's what I'm trying to think. It was like going, yeah. So it's just got 2 sets of brothers that work. So that's actually kind of helpful too. So
a family business.
Yeah.
And back to the steps, the Fitbit. So in 2018, I was trying to pull this up. Debbie Brutico, so my mom did the sugar sampling, and she walked 83.3 miles. That's 201,800 steps and 178 floors, because these are up and down hills. So yeah, that's a lot of walking.
Yeah. Yes,
Steve did 11 steps today.
Yeah, I believe that.
Desk to the kitchen and back.
So you're 1 step away from finishing the program, Steve. I'm glad to hear that.
How many acres total do we have, and split between red and white?
Well, there's about 450 acres that are plantable. We're running about 350 acres right now. We talked about this before. We got some of it that we pulled out a bunch of older stuff. So instead of fumigating it, we let it sit barren, and then we can come back to it. I would say we're pretty much, Len will correct me on this if I'm wrong, I think we're 85 red, about 15 white, something like that, pretty close. Actually, I think with the new Chardonnay plantings, it might be a little bit more than that. We might be closer to 20, 25%, maybe 25, 75. So.
Any more questions?
All right, cool. We drug this out for almost an hour. Hey, so listen, next week is a must-do. It's my heart and soul is Coro. It really is. It's something that's close to my heart. It's right there. Coro Mendocino, it's a great organization. It's a great winemaking experience. It kind of pulls the old world into the new world. Talking about with the Coro wines. Again, our Coro's have been 5 years running 90+ points, so we're really happy about that. So that'll be great. And we'll have the Reserve Chardonnay also that we're going to be talking about, which is a completely different style Chardonnay than anything else that we make. So that's why it's getting its own little rampart there. It'll be a lot of fun. Again, thank you all for joining us and being a part of this. We really appreciate it. A shout out to our little cousin Ella, whose 18th birthday is today. We had a nice little birthday party for her, but on Zoom. She's in Kansas. She'll be coming back out to California to go to UC Davis to be a doctor here in the next year. So very proud of that. Anyway, so everybody, again, stay safe. Thank you so much. And just always remember, the only difference between a wine connoisseur and a wino is one pulls the brown paper bag off the bottle. Be safe, guys. Enjoy. Thanks.